If you've been thinking about getting serious with your money, like actually serious, now's the time. The Motley Fool is offering new members 50% off their iconic stock recommendation service, Stock Advisor. This is the same service that's crushed the market with recommendations that have returned 1,057% since inception, compared to the S&P 500's 180% over that same period. This isn't guesswork. The Motley Fool has a track record of finding companies before they become household names. So if you want to invest smarter and you like saving money while doing it, go to fool.com/listen to claim your 50% off discount off a 1-year term of Stock Advisor. Again, that's fool.com/listen. Returns of 1,057% are from the Motley Fool's product Stock Advisor and measured against S&P 500 returns of 180% as of July 10th, 2025. Past performance is not an indicator of future results. All investing involves a risk of loss. Individual investment results may vary.
Hello, this is Aaron West. I am the author of the A24 New Wave. In this book, I look at A24's output and I make the argument that we are in a new wave movement right now. A24 plays a major role. This book has a supplemental podcast where each episode is a brief conversation about an A24 related topic, whether an actor, director, or even a genre. As I continue research for the book and conduct interviews, I expect to record podcast episodes with people involved with the company. You can find the podcast at cinejourneys.com or wherever you find podcasts, and we are proud to be members of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
We're in Wave Media. Welcome back to Midnight Viewing. I'm your host, Father Malone, and with us is a returning guest, our first returning guest. Are you honored?
Of course I am.
Well, you should be. You're one of the few humans I can tolerate. Back with us is the host of A Year in Horror podcast. When last he graced our airwaves with his mellifluous tones, I declared A Year in Horror the best movie podcast out there. Since then, I've had a chance to sample a great number of other shows. Turns out I'm correct. Welcome back, Mr. Paul Waller.
Love it. Again, I love your voice. It's the voice of America.
Oh, if only. Need some reason these days. That's right. Tonight, we're going to be knocking for a sweet surprise. We're going to be talking about Trick or Treat, baby. This is Trick or Treat from 1986, not to be confused with 1982's Trick or Treats, or 2019's Trick or Treat, or 2007's Trick or Treat.
Which is your favorite of that lot?
If the film that we're currently discussing is in the mix, this one.
I have to agree.
I think Trick or Treat has a lot of fans because it's the first time they understood that an anthology could hang together from story to story. It doesn't matter to them that those stories are all boring and terrible. But if you're going to say Trick or Treat, it's this Trick or Treat for me. Now, let me just quickly lay out the plot for it. And then we're going to back up because we've got to talk to you specifically, Mr. Metal. All right. Trick or Treat, it tells the tale of Eddie Weinbauer. He is a bullied high school metalhead whose only solace is the music of Sammy Kerr. He's got style, got no soul, got everything that a man would want from rock and roll. When Sammy Kerr is killed in a hotel fire, Eddie becomes the recipient of the only acetate of Sammy's final song. If you play it backwards, good golly, Ms. Molly, there's going to be trouble. Lecherous demons and haunted drill presses and large Marge back from the dead. Oh no, she's dead again. Now, this is a heavy metal movie. To me, this is one of the heavy metal movies. It came out in 1986. Now, I contend that this disposable little horror flick, which was lost amidst the sea of slasher films in the mid 1980s, is actually a very important horror film in its depiction of heavy metal fans. Usually, you get one of two flavors in film. You get the aggro villain. There are too many of those to name, or the aggro ally. You can check out Some Kind of Wonderful for Elias Koteas' portrayal of Duncan, the metalhead ally in that one, or more recently, Joe Quinn on Stranger Things. Far more rare is the one on display here, which is the outcast and the loser metalhead, the bullied metalhead. I've seen all three throughout my life, Paul. Which one were you? And as a follow-up, why do you think that Stryper is the platonic ideal of a heavy metal band?
Wow. Yeah, you can't mention Stryper on the off. Come on. I was sort of none of them until I got pulled in by the headmaster at my school and was told to cut my hair. And I did a really stupid thing. I was so cross and I was so rebellious that I thought, all right, I'll do that. So what I did was I left it long, but I shaved because Metallica, well, this was 88 or something. Metallica had just done and Justice for All, and Jason had shaved the side of his head. So I went, right, I'm going to do that. And I shaved the side of my head and went back and said, I've had my hair cut. Little did I know that you're meant to put cream and stuff on your head to make sure it doesn't blister and all that stuff. So what I had was gaping wounds, dripping blood, pus, all that sort of thing. I was disgusting.
You were fucking metal is what you were.
That's right.
Take this pus. How do you like that for a fucking upgrade?
He didn't drag me in his office any longer. But yeah, I was sort of got on with the popular kids, but I was far more into, like, there was two metalheads in my school and me, and one of them didn't like me. One of them went to shows with me, and that was everything for me.
You had an aggro and an ally on your side.
That's right. Yeah, the kid that didn't like me was the younger kid, and I guess he was a bit frightened. But he was the one that introduced me to this film via its soundtrack. We would trade, and he gave me a Fastway tape with this album on it. And yeah, I blew my mind.
Now, I grew up in kind of an insular neighborhood, and it was overflowing with children, and they were all older than me, mainly teenagers. So I got kind of an advanced study in popular culture. So by 78, 79, I was 7 or 8 years old. And most of the people that I looked up to, the cool kids, they were listening to AC/DC, Aerosmith, Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, and my personal favorite, just on a visual level, Iron Maiden. To me, that's the bedrock of heavy metal. Heavy metal since then has branched off crazily, ping-ponging in every direction. There are so many subcategories these days. I can't keep up because here's the thing. My knowledge of heavy metal pretty much extends to Black Sabbath, Aerosmith. I listen to Metallica and everybody else, but very rarely. Well, I exist in a pre-Return of the Living Dead soundtrack and a post-Return of the Living Dead soundtrack. As soon as I heard that, punk was it and metal was out for me.
I got into punk a little bit later. It was thanks to, like, Kurt Cobain, really. So I was lost after thrash metal burnt out in the 90s, like really early 90s, maybe 91 at the very latest. And I was just looking. So I'd started going to gigs, and I was more into the indie rock stuff. So bands like The Breeders and Big Black and things like that. So I was listening to all this weird stuff, and then Kurt Cobain hit me like a ton of bricks. And it was the first time as a 16, 17-year-old, whatever I was, that it was like a god for me. And it opened up, not just, I think he published like 92 or 93, his top 100 albums. Or something like that. And it was just, that was it for me. I could like pick them off. Right, I've never heard of this. Who's Daniel Johnston? Like, oh, he likes that Sonic Youth one, you know, and it was just like an incredible eye-opening thing for me. And I discovered punk thanks to him.
So when do you get metal?
Metal was so early, I don't know what it was.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, it was. I was into Kiss in 1980. I was a little boy, and they came over to Australia, and that's where I was living. And it was like the Beatles. If you see the footage, it's crazy.
I've seen the
Just
footage. It's
it's
crazy.
it's insane. And as a little kid, I had Gene Simmons on my wall. You could pull his tongue, and his arms would go like that. Was brilliant. And and that was me. And I still am now. Got Kiss tattoos and whatnot. I love Kiss still, but it sprouted not too far into things like Fastway. So I would drift off a bit. Mainly, the only other thing I got into was thrash. So it was just all that rock. I discovered, like you, Maiden. I got into Motley Crue. I thought they were the evilest thing with that Shout of the Devil album that came out. I just thought, oh God, am I going to go to hell? As a kid, you don't know any concepts apart from like what's on your record, and they looked evil.
I
But
remember the
yeah,
video for, oh God, it's the Kung Fu one, Too Young to Fall in Love. And that to me gave me the same feeling that you just described. Oh, there's something especially dark about this particular band.
yeah, like, and because I'm, I would consider myself English. Their Maiden were everywhere. Like you couldn't, if you were into metal, every magazine so they could sell it would have Maiden on the front cover. And it was one of those things that they were the top dog. Everyone was underneath, like, and that was it growing up here.
That's funny. Maiden were as niche as could be here in America. It seemed. I know they were selling out like stadiums and stuff, but it wasn't like on the radio necessarily, or on the covers of popular magazines. In fact, I remember having to trek into Boston to like a niche kind of record shop to get whatever the latest poster or T-shirt of Eddie was going to be. Speaking of which, we're going to get to this movie in a second because we're talking Maiden, not album, not song, album cover. What is your favorite album cover for Iron Maiden?
It's got to be Number of the Beast. It's got to be. Like my first day of buying actual albums, like with my own money, there was two, and I got Number of the Beast and I got Motorhead's Orgasmatron. And they were both in the cheap bin. So again, I was a little bit older, but I would look at them two covers and I would just put them, as I would go to bed at night, I would put them against my wall and just look at them and just think, oh God, this is insane. And the music was all too heavy for me at that time. Like it was just, but I didn't care. It was just those covers, like Eddie holding the demon who's holding a little Ed. Oh, come on. Come on. Number of the Beast.
I'm a big fan of Aces High.
Now that, yeah, I mean, they're
Every one of them is fucking gorgeous.
I'm trying to get Derek Riggs on my show, like just to talk to him about horror, because I know that he loves war films and a little sprinkling of horror, which you would, looking at his covers, you'd think, yeah, that'd be all right. And although he reads my messages, it says read, I know he's looked at him, never once responds. So, yeah. Shame.
At least you have the solace that he's read them.
Wake up, sleepyhead. It's party time!
Rock and roll will never die. At least not this Halloween.
You've heard of raising spirits from the dead by incantations, right?
Yes.
I did that by playing the record backwards.
You're kidding.
Sammy Kerr. He's a rock and roll nightmare.
I am a big fan of yours. I've got all your records. Shut up!
You're the big. The big is you.
This message is meant for me.
How can you listen to this stuff?
Shut it off! Shut it off!
What have you done to your stereo?
I wanted a new one.
Sammy Kerr. His fans won't let him die. He won't let them live.
You should be loyal to your hero. Make it turn on you.
Trick or treat.
Looks like we better check out the party punch.
We are talking about Trick or Treat. This movie was released on October the 24th, 1986. I knew where I was that Halloween weekend. Written by Michael S. Murphy, Joel Soisson, and Rhett Topham, with an uncredited rewrite by future kings of the X-Files and creators of the Final Destinations franchise, Glenn Morgan and James Wong. And it was directed by Charles Martin Smith. That's character actor Charles Martin Smith. Terry the Toad from American Graffiti, Charles Martin Smith. He was also Oscar Wallace, the agent who actually brings down Al Capone in The Untouchables, and was the star of a fantastic film from 1983 called Never Cry Wolf. This is his directorial debut, starring Mark Price, Tony Fields, Lisa Orgolini, Doug Savant, Ozzy Osbourne, and Gene Simmons as Nuke. I already gave us the plot. When did you first see this movie, Paul?
As I say, the young guy was tape trading with me, so I would give him like Kisses Lick It Up on cassette, and then the next day he would come through with Trick or Treat by Fastway. I took it home and I was like, what is this? I love this. And then it must have been a matter of weeks later that I just I saw it, Trick or Treat, on the video shelves. There was only one. I do remember that. You know, I used to love it when the new films are coming in. There's a whole rack on top, and you're like, oh wow, this is the new movie that everyone loves. But this one was like a shitty one at the bottom. So I took it home. I still didn't piece it all together. And when that music came out, I was like, oh, this is that album that I've just fallen in love with. And then it's about a metalhead, and it's about a rock god, and Gene Simmons is in it. Oh man, come on. I loved it.
Saw this opening weekend.
What?
Yeah, this was my prime horror phase and my prime movie going phase. So I was seeing everything that was out there, but of course I'm going to go see this. And interestingly, I went to see this because of Charles Martin Smith, because I loved him so much, and because of not necessarily so much the metal thing, but just because of the horror thing. And I was knee deep, like everyone else was at the time, in the slasher movies. We all loved blood and gore. So I think a lot of people were let down by this movie because it's not really a gory film at all. And I think that's Charles Martin Smith probably working against that. But what was your reaction as a horror fan, one of the best horror fans out there? Were you ever at all disappointed by with their approach to horror in this film?
Never. The specific time that I watched it was Hellraiser was brand new. So it was a year or so later. And I remember looking at the effects on this and I thought, oh, they're a step up from the Hellraiser lightning effects that were going on in that. I thought they were a bit hammy. It was a bit I didn't like of Hellraiser. And then I thought, oh, they've improved it with Trick or Treat. And I really like those lightning effects that were going on, but the lack of gore and things when you're already into Hellraiser and you've got that scene where, you know, Frank is coming out of the floorboards and stuff like that. It's ultimate gore. This was 15 rather than an 18 for sure. But because I was already prepped by films like The Gate and things like that, it just slipped right in. It became a fast favorite for sure. And I didn't care that it wasn't blood and guts everywhere and sex everywhere. I didn't care about that. It was just, I wanted to be entertained and it entertained me.
Now, this film is playing off what was not an inconsequential fear at the time: Satan and Satanism. We all call it now. We all call it, rather bemused, we call it the Satanic Panic. Ha ha ha! Wasn't that quaint? No. There was a point in history where if you were wearing a heavy metal t-shirt, somebody could walk up to you and call you a servant of hell and feel no guilt or a total clear conscience walking away. And like the rest of society was cool with that. Heavy metal and Satanism got interlinked very, very quickly. Having a band called Black Sabbath did not help. Let's face it.
Correct.
And then by the time this movie comes out, the fact that Crew are shouting at the devil, now they're courting it. And what I like about this movie, go ahead.
You mentioned Stryper, and they were the ultimate enemy. I didn't know why. Just like these guys are nice. I don't want my metal to be nice. And when you see Sammy Kerr, and like there's that cutaway scene where he's in the hotel with all the candles around him and things like that, and you just think, oh God, that's evil. I love that, right?
Yeah, man. A friend of mine and I were just talking about it. My co-host on many of my shows is one of my best friends of all time, and he's the one I used to watch this movie with all the time. He is a bigger fan of this movie than even I am. And we were commenting that like that scene alone kind of elevates this film. That hallucinatory look into how Sammy Kerr was actually dying after we were told it was an accidental fire in a hotel. It I don't know. It automatically raised the film above. I guess I'm answering my own question as far as my expectation with gore, because this movie was leaning in a whole other direction, and it was more supernatural and less knife to skull.
It's when you look at it on IMDb and a couple of other places, it says it's a comedy horror, which I was like, I don't know where the comedy in this.
Yes, you do.
Like...
Roger vacuuming up the remains of charred Large Marge is fucking hilarious every single time I see it.
But okay, so there is a couple of scenes. The initial when they pull the pants down and they throw him out as well.
Oh, that's not funny. Come on,
that's mortifying. But yeah, like that it's quite funny until it isn't funny. Till it would ruin your whole life forevermore.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. Who's calling this a comedy? This is in no way a comedy. This is more of a drama with some supernatural shit going on in it, and then an occasional laugh.
Look, that is trauma right there. That opening scene where those pants are pulled down and you're in, and you're not just got your pants on, but you're butt naked in front of like all the cool chicks at school. That would be the worst thing for me. Like the one time that I've been sort of attacked in the street for being metal, I got spat on by quite an elderly woman because I was wearing, I don't know if you remember, Axl Rose would wear this t-shirt that had Jesus on it and it said "Kill your idols."
Yes.
So I wore that. Got spat on by an old woman.
Okay.
It was deserved.
She might not have been commenting on your choice in music there, Paul.
It might just have been something else. I don't know. But I do remember that sitting with me for a long time, just thinking, I've really upset that person. And I double checked myself. To do that to someone, to have them be in like butt naked with all them girls, I would never forget that. I would still today go to bed crying. It would be the worst. So yeah, it's not a comedy.
No, poor Ragman. Did you guys have the television sitcom Family Ties in the UK?
Not at all. No, not at all.
It was the Michael J. Fox starring series here before he got to Back to the Future. His best friend in that series was a goofy doofus dork named Skippy. Everyone here in America knows Skippy. Skippy was played by Mark Price, who is the star of this movie. It was a shock for, I think, most Americans to take Skippy seriously as a metalhead because we'd known him as such a Urkel kind of nerdy guy.
Interesting. That is interesting because I see him as nothing but a metalhead. Wow. That's mad.
Rewatching this movie just recently, not only his performance, I think across the board, other than some local hires, you can tell that, wherever they were shooting on location in Wilmington, North Carolina, you got to hire some locals. And there's only so many talented people in Wilmington. But the main cast are really, really solid. And I think it benefits from having Charles Martin Smith, who is an actor's actor, as a matter of fact, directing these scenes, because I noticed, like Mark Price in particular, like there's a lot of depth going on. The full range of emotions here, and it's all genuine and it's all earned. And I think all the performances across the board are really good. What do you think of his performance in particular, but everyone in general?
The only time I don't like his performance is when he does that Cunningham Christine thing. Where he's like now got a little bit of cool about him, a bit of swagger, and then he leaves his best friends, and he goes off like acting really hard and cool and smart. And it's like, well, you're the same guy. You've just won one little battle. You've not won the war, dude. And I don't like that. And when it happens in Christine, it goes so wild that I'm on board with it. But with this guy, I like him. Don't treat your friends like dicks because they're your friends. So that's the only time I'm like, But he was told to act like that. So I think the only person that knows what movie they're in is Ozzy Osbourne a lot of the time. I think they take it really seriously, all this cast, and I really enjoy it because of that.
Okay, you mentioned Ozzy. Let's talk both cameos, actually, because I guess technically cameos from the heavy metal world, evidently offered the role of Sammy Kerr, but turned it down in order to portray a lifelong obsession of his, Wolfman Jack. We're talking Gene Simmons, the demon himself, playing DJ Nuke. Now, you're a fan of Mr. Simmons. I'm a fan of Mr. Simmons. Are you a fan of his films?
Runaway.
Excellent.
You know, I am a fan of the films. But I know they're shit. So, but I am a fan of them. Like, there's nothing that he's been in that I think, oh man, I'm not going to watch that, because I will always watch that. But he is the only person in this film that I think is, as a word, I think he's the only sensible, he's the only likable character in this movie. Everyone else, it seems like bizarre and mad. And although I think the writing's quite good for the type of film that this is, to have him as the grounded guy, Gene Simmons, that's weird. That's a weird take, right?
Yeah, but that's what I love about it. It puts you off kilter that the craziest among us is the one speaking the truth and telling everyone exactly what needs to happen so that nothing bad happens. And then no one listens to him and everything bad happens. I like Gene Simmons quite a bit as an actor, and I think that this is definitely his best performance. He's in 2 scenes in this movie, and I look forward to it every time, and I miss him when he's gone. There's the relationship between Ragman and Nuke is so tender and fatherly and mentor. And Nuke hung the title Ragman on Eddie Weinbauer.
Yeah, right. Yeah, definitely. And you're totally right. He is, as I say, he's the grounded guy, but pity's the wrong word, but he just feels like the pain that Ragman's going through. So he's going to be that guy that you can go to for some from fatherly advice. I would say that, like, that's the person that he looks up to. I just am gutted that he's not in more scenes. I know with the Aussie one, there was like 30 to 50 minutes or something that they left on the cutting room floor. But with Gene, I have no idea. And I would love for him to come back towards the end or something, even if it's just to be killed. I would have loved that, but no.
Yeah, the finale, spoilers, everybody. The finale does take place at the radio station, or parts of it take place at the radio station, where it's now automated, and which I like. But you're right. Like, why don't we have Nuke in there trying to stop Sammy Kerr? And not only that, Sammy Kerr and he evidently went to high school together. They have history. He's talking from experience when he's telling Eddie exactly how Sammy was and is and used to be now.
Yeah, I wish I had that box set that's just come out. Like, maybe the extras reveal it. It's such a shame. I imagine they had him for a day, if that. And it was just like, right, you've nailed those 2 scenes, but maybe nothing else was written. I don't know. It just seems mad opportunity that you didn't ad-lib something or do something. It's crazy.
Yeah, I guarantee you part of his decision to not play Sammy Kerr was the amount of days he would have to spend in North Carolina. I'll come down for a day or 2. Sure. But I'm not going to put on the makeup and have electricity and fall off a trapeze. No, that's not going to be me.
He would have been an awful Sammy Kerr. The worst.
The worst. He is not that kind of metal. He's theatrical, but he's not dancey theatrical.
Tell me what you think about Ozzy in this.
I love Ozzy in this.
Yeah?
I do, actually. I think he's fun.
I don't know when his speech started to go really mad slurry, because here he is totally focused, even though the cuts are no more than like 10 seconds or so with him, but he can still string sentences together, no problem at all. He's got that character down and he's funny with it. I know, as I say, he knows what movie he's in. And like when I was growing up with like looking at Fangoria or whatever, just to try and like, what is there a line about this film in that? He mentioned in an interview, like, yeah, there was loads of extra footage. They only used like a little bit. And I was just like, wow, what else did you give them? I'd love to see that. I hope it's on that box set. I really do.
I have not seen this box set. I will seek it out. I watched a Blu-ray of this, and the title of the film that I saw was Ragman.
That and mine. Yeah. So I need a new copy of this. Like, I got mine from Europe.
Not only that, every 20 minutes or so, there's a couple of Q dots that show up. I'm sure you know Q dots from the older films up in the top right corner. Everyone knows them. Everyone knows them as, listen, I was a projectionist 20 or so years. People like to call them cigarette burns.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, nobody calls them cigarette burns. No one in the industry ever called them cigarette burns. We just called them Qs or Q dots. It's a romantic way of saying it, but it's for people who were projectionist for one semester in college. Like they've walked away with the knowledge that those were once called cigarette burns. No, they're not. Anyway.
I want to call them cigarette burns, though.
Yeah, I know, because it's cool, but come on, be realistic here. We're going to say cigarette burns or
You telling me you weren't putting cigarettes on? Just to get it just right, so the next guy that comes along knows when to check. Come on, of course you were.
I never did that. I used silver tape along the edge. Anyway, Where are we here? Oh my God, we are trick or treating. Glenn Morgan, the ghostwriter of this film, plays Roger in this film.
Who's Roger?
Roger, Eddie Weinbauer's best friend, is played by Glenn Morgan, the
no way
of this film. That is correct.
The straight and sensible mate.
Yeah.
He's pretty cool, and like their friendship, I wish had gone a bit more into it. I wish we'd gone round his house. It very much reminds me of The Gate, and I loved in The Gate where you would go round to each bedroom, and like they'd be talking to each other like friends were at that time. Doesn't matter how far you got to walk to see your friend, you're going to do it. And you're going to be looking at record covers and things like that. They missed a trick there. I guess that the writing and everything was already done. Everything had to be tight, but I would have loved a little bit more between them two because they'd suit each other. We got one that's like a metal kid, but it's like, yeah, it rocks, whatever.
Yeah.
I really like their friendship. I didn't know that at all. That's great news. Yeah, great.
Yeah, evidently the actor that they had lined up dropped out at the last second and they were on set, so they're like, you'll work. And about the writing, I agree. I wanted more of all of these characters. I wanted more of all of these relationships. This is a 90-minute film, and it's pretty fleet-footed at that, and they tell a lot of story here. But we could have had a breath here and there for Eddie and his best friend. Get to know Eddie a little bit more than just as the tortured person that they keep fucking heaping horrible events upon in the form of blonde, blow-dried Doug Savant.
Even in your synopsis of the film, you mentioned like the scene with the metal work. Yeah, in there.
Sick crush.
And like that was always a dream of mine, not to metalwork someone to death that had bullied me, but just to get my own back, to win one battle against the bully. Like I would love that. And yeah, you get that fantasy fulfilled here. As I say, his reaction about it was a bit much, but like still to get that one up finally. And how choreographed was his like escape?
It was wonderful. Put the mop here, go around the corner here, put a chair here, walk down here, make sure they're going to be carrying out tables now. Here, go. That's great. And you know what? That points to not only did I want more of the Eddie and Roger friendship, I really wanted more of the Eddie-Sammy friendship. That's pretty elating that he orchestrates that for Eddie, and Eddie feels that, and there might have been more of that. The scene where Eddie has started doing the back masking and realize it's effectively a telephone or a radio at this point. Like he can ask questions and he'll get direct answers. Like that's such a delightful scene. Like it's exciting, and I wanted more of that. Like maybe he worms his way into turning Eddie Weinbauer evil,
I think though it's because we've seen it so many times. This film is so rewatchable that you want your favorite bits, of which there will be loads if you're into this film, just to be extended to see what happened next and to expand on those characters that you already love. It's not like a regular sort of slasher that isn't a one and done. You'll go and watch like Maniac again or whatever, but you want to. I feel like friends with a lot of these characters. I feel like I know them, and yeah, I think you're right. Like imagine like just one night of them sitting down chatting, and so you get that bond, and then when that bond is destroyed, Sammy Kerr's ruined that friendship. Then we can see maybe like the way he got back on the bullies. Maybe he can get back on Sammy like that. That would have been cool. I think
you have to be loyal to your heroes, Paul.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know how I would conjure up Kurt Cobain. I don't know what I'd need to do with a needle or whatever. But yeah, I don't. I'm quite happy where I am, I think. Yeah, for sure.
Some sort of sunglasses, some sort of wacky, oversized sunglasses. That's the first step in conjuring Kurt Cobain. Everybody knows that. Come on, man.
So yeah, that'll do it. I'll wear him back to front. There he is, right in front of me. I saw Nirvana, and it was one of the highlights of my musical life ever, and I'll never forget it. And it was that moment, like Ragman Gets Here, where you've got your idol right in front of you, and there's nothing like it. Nothing feels like it. It's like that poster on his ceiling, right at the top of his wall, with Sammy Kerr there. Like, we've been there. When we see our idols, it's just like, wow, that's that person. It's amazing. Yeah, I get like all his feels in this. I really do.
A few years ago, I was a tour guide at a haunted attraction here in Las Vegas, a haunted museum, perhaps. And I noticed on one tour I was conducting, we would have groups of about 8 to 10 people, that standing in the back was this diminutive, bespectacled, balding gentleman who was most definitely Charles Martin Smith. And there comes a point in the tour where you've introduced the group to a room of artifacts and you give them a brief history of things and then step back and let them examine. And I did, and he was examining something, and I beelined right the fuck over, and I said, "You're Charles Martin Smith, aren't you?" And he said, yeah. And I said, "I love you, first of all, Terry the Toad and Starman and any litany of roles." And I said, "And of course, Trick or Treat," and which made him laugh because he's like, "There's always one of you." And then, just on a personal note, I'm Father Malone, but that's not my actual surname. That's Wallace.
What?
Yeah, it's Wallace. And he portrayed the character of Oscar Wallace in The Untouchables. And as I said, he's the one who actually brings down Al Capone, and he's the one who dies tragically in the effort to do so. And so I was able to tell Charles Martin Smith that, like, 13-year-old me beamed with pride and forever accepted Charles Martin Smith as a member of my family.
Fandom. Do you think the thing is he would have left and gone, "That was cool," that he would have remembered that?
Now, what if he had said, "Let's kill your enemies"? I would have been on board.
That's the moment when you think, "Oh, yeah, I'm not such a fan anymore." Not unless you're in this film, in which case, yeah, let's do it. And there is the thing with this. There is that point. There is a snapping point where he knows he's gone too far. I thought conjuring up a dead rock star would have been a turning point, but no, that's not it.
That's nothing. Everyone's doing that. Everyone's backwards masking, right?
I've tried after watching this film, and I think they do it in The Gate, don't they, as well?
Oh yeah.
And more recently, oh my God, the Rob Zombie one with the record.
Lords of Salem.
Yeah. They don't backward mask that, but it sounds just like it in places.
Yeah.
It's going forward. Like that sort of thing in a horror movie is amazing. And I would like ruin my records whenever Judas Priest or whoever it was, like, when it went to court in the States. So like when I got wind of that, I had that record, right? And I was trying to, what can you hear? Like, what was it? Kill them, or something like that. And I was like, okay. I can't hear nothing. What are you talking about?
Gobbledygook.
Sorry to go off there.
No,
but
no, that's fine. The only one I ever really heard with my own ears and went, that could be something, was the famous Zeppelin 4 Stairway to Heaven backwards, My Sweet Satan. But I contend it's actually him if he's from the South, because it's like, "My sweet Satan," like that. I'm like, well, is he actually saying Satan? Did they put that in there really? Anyway, it was a great fear at the time. I love that movies were playing on it. And I was making this point earlier, like another thing I love about this movie, the fact that everyone was so freaked out about heavy metal and Satanism. And here's a movie going, yep, it's all true.
And here's the thing, this doesn't glorify metal. The metal kid is being bullied and has got a shitty life. The rock star is killing everyone. Like, it's actually what they're warning you about. This Sammy Kerr is this person. Like the time we actually get to see him when he was alive and on stage, I think it's through a TV, but he's cutting open a live snake and pouring the blood in his mouth. So what? This is beyond Motley Crue, Sunshine. What are you doing? He's sick.
I love that moment where it's like just a local news broadcast and they show him bite through a snake and then pour its blood into his mouth and then like revel in that blood. I'm like, are they really showing this? I don't.
Yeah. And I want to know how that was done because it looked great.
Oh, it did look great.
I think Sammy Kerr is not portrayed as like he is a role model. I think the only person that you could say gets away with it again, Gene Simmons, is just like a totally well-adjusted person in this.
I do think it's funny, however, that he's on the one hand, he's like, Eddie, this is just a guy. He's not a god. He went to this high school. You don't put him up so high that you're going to hurt yourself now that he's gone. And then gives him the acetate and goes, he's in here, you know. Come on, mixed messages. Nuke. You're nuking his brain.
Also, like this rock star that even makes it onto your local network news broadcast, and you've got the one copy, and you give it to this guy, and like I would have cried thank you for this unreleased Nirvana like album that's got one copy. I'll look after it. No, I would have cried, I would have hugged, but he just said, oh man, thanks very much, cheers, off he goes. I was like, what, is that all you're getting? You've just given him something that's priceless.
Well, no one deserved it more than Ragman, obviously. He knew Ragman would take care of that album until he didn't.
Yeah, until he didn't. You mentioned what can happen with regards to like the hoovering up moment and things like that, or when it got supernatural, when Sammy Kerr is like pulling people out the TV or swiping with his hand on the TV. I think it's Ozzy gets swept away.
Yeah.
Like those effects, me as a kid watching this stuff, like you in a cinema watching this stuff. Like you mentioned like the gore and stuff, but that when you get that sort of cool effect, I'm totally game and entranced. And still today, I'm like, wow, the way they must have done that. Like I'm so impressed. Well, still today.
Most of the visual effects we're seeing on screen, I think, was DreamQuest images, and they were pioneers in digital imaging, which is why, like, when Sammy Kerr disappears, he wipes off the screen, like almost as if his image is peeled away from the rest of the image. But you can see him superimposed, and that he's going to pull away in those moments if you're looking, which I am.
Course.
But the effects overall, I just love, particularly the makeup effects. Kevin Yeager here doing the makeup. Kevin Yeager, who did the Crypt Keeper, as a matter of fact, for the Tales from the Crypt television series. So he did the makeup on Kerr, and he did the rapey demon. We haven't mentioned the rapey demon sequence.
Oh, yeah, I forget about that every time, and when it happens, oh.
Every time. I never remember it either because we both love this movie and we know that scene doesn't have any place in it.
It doesn't make sense, but I guess when you've learned a new effect, you're doing a horror picture, like, why not? Why not? And again, it doesn't hurt the film. It doesn't, this film does not need it. But that is a scene when you watch it that you're just like, oh, that's gross. And yet I guess as a kid you're meant to as a young male kid, like, oh hello, this is really cool, I'm loving this.
As a pubescent boy, sure, it's the greatest scene on earth. Watched with any sort of morality at all, it kind of goes away. However, technically, as you're saying, the creature itself is fucking great, first of all, and then the animation of the ghostly tendrils that are removing her clothing, that's really cool too. But here's my question. Eddie gives his bully this tape, hoping he's going to listen to the tape and it's going to kill him.
Yep. And
inadvertently kills the guy's girlfriend who listens to the tape. Now, had the intended victim, Doug Savant, the blow-dried blonde bully, listened to the tape, would the demon have also sexily undressed him?
I hope so. I wouldn't have been so turned on watching that scene, but I still would have really enjoyed it. I would have loved that moment. That It's an unfortunate thing, but we need more bully. And I like when the bully finally flips and gets scared. And as bullies do when there's something that they don't understand, they strike out. And when it gets too much, they retreat. And it's a perfect execution of that scenario with this film. But yeah, as I say, I forget every time when I watch this film, and I've watched this film a lot. I just forget that's there. And when it's there, I'm like, oh, it's that scene. And then I'm like, oh, it's that scene. oh, oh yeah.
I just noticed for the first time today, rewatching this film, when Sammy Kerr appears to Roger, at one point he motions to the television, and the television flicks through a dozen different channels. One of the images, just for a moment, is a bit of driftwood that's a piece of the Elizabeth Dane, because for one moment, there's a shot of John Carpenter's The Fog on that television.
Wow.
As Father Malone, I found that very interesting.
What's it all mean?
I don't know.
And also, how would they have had the rights to that?
They couldn't have. That's the thing. This is a De Laurentiis Entertainment Group film. The Fog was Avco Embassy and released by, I think, Universal or Fox or something. So there's no way there was any overlap. Somebody just was like, I don't know, just throw a picture of that fucking driftwood, I guess.
It is really interesting because, like, this film, when you watch it, it feels like there is a love of the genre within it. And yet I know from past interviews with the director and other people on set that wasn't particularly the case. That love of horror wasn't there. This was another film, another job. Yes, it was a horror film, but like that wasn't what they were, in love with making this and crafting this. Even like Sammy Kerr is not a rocker. What is he, a dancer? He danced with Michael Jackson, I think.
He did, yeah. Backup dancer, yeah. Give it. Okay, but I think it works in this case.
Just 100%. I think everything works. I just think it's so lucky the way it all come together, because like you say, like that little flash that you noticed of another film, like horror nerds would be doing that, but who else would? No one would get that. So why risk it? But they don't. It's not a love of the genre that this was made. I don't get it. Well, so many things.
You're talking about Charles Martin Smith was probably not the biggest horror fan, but wanted to direct a movie, and this was an opportunity, so he took it and he did the best job he could. And I think he did do a fantastic job. But the other people working with him certainly could be fans of horror. I'm sure the guy prepping their video thing where it's just flicking through, I'm sure it just read in the script, it flicks from channel to channel, and nobody gave a shit what those channels were going to look like as long as it flipped through those channels. So somebody who's a horror fan working here. There's somebody on the inside.
Was it you?
Come on. Don't tell anybody. Now, before we go, Mr. Paul Waller, I'm going to steal a page from your book. Let's say right now in 2024, there are plans on the books for a remake of Trick or Treat, and they need a new theme song. You, until recently, were the frontman of the fantastic metal band OHHMS. Which song of your back catalog are you going to choose? And we're going to play it right after this.
I don't know if you can because it's too long, but I would definitely put a song like Dawn of the Swarm on. It's an early one, but it's still available for, I think it's like 18 minutes long, so don't do all of that. But there is a bit on the second half where I start like talking about like this wizard, and then and all the time the music's going in the background. There's a little backwards like sitar noise that if you listen carefully, it's in there. It's just a guitar playing backwards, but it sounds just like a sitar. And I was always thinking of like playing this backwards. What would that sound like? So I guess that matches like the gist of this, but Dawn of the Swarm for sure.
Well, that bit is going to be cut in. How about that? Not the full 18 minutes. We got a time limit here. Can I just say, I have delighted recently in the past few weeks visiting your back catalog. I was a neophyte there. I'm sorry you're no longer a band now. I think that last album is my favorite. That might be just little punker me liking 4-minute songs and not 18-minute masterpieces. But that entire album, Rot, in particular, can you guess what my favorite song might have been?
Could it be Swamp Thing?
It is!
Wow.
By the way, I read a review that said that the opening sound and the closing sound on the album is a cassette tape, like a fucking audio cassette tape. Are they out of their minds?
Yeah, I mean, we take any review that you can get, and like, I'll take it. But yeah, our drummer, I just said, look, we need a few weird sounds and things in this. It's basically a horror movie. We're going to begin it and we're going to end it. Can you sort something out? And he just came up with all of that in a couple of weeks. And bless him, the sound of a VHS tape going in, especially, I just know I can see the machine as it goes in on that sound clip. Yeah, so I'm sure it's been done a million times, but just to have my horror fantasies on one record and that record being rot, so we finally did those shorter songs and they're so catchy, man, I loved it. Like, I had to do something like that before we split, and I'm glad we did.
Am I insulting you by comparing your band to Stone Temple Pilots?
I would say
heaviest version of Stone Temple Pilots possible.
I would say like that first record, and also one of the really later records as well. I think it's got a star on the cover. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's some moments in that, and definitely moments on the first one. I would always try, and because he had that quite Eddie Veddery voice,
yeah,
and I would try and avoid that at every possible moment that I could. And whenever I would creep into it, the band would stop, and I'd go, hold on, and like go back, and I'd have to redo it. So yeah, they were not fans for sure.
I don't necessarily mean that your vocal stylings was that of Scott Weiland. I was just saying musically.
Oh yeah. But I loved that Eddie Vedder, like Scott, like I wish I could do it. You can see why they were like, no, Paul.
I think you guys did all right. All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Paul, for joining us.
Hey.
I was just about to cut out without letting you plug your fucking show.
Oh, a year in horror. Yeah. Episodes with Father Malone are coming up soon.
Fantastic. And as for everybody else, thank you for joining us here at Midnight Viewing. If you want to support the show, go on over to patreon.com/Father Malone. You get episodes early and commercial free, and you'll get our new Patreon only show, Cable Box Theater, where Noise Junkies host HP and myself look at television, or rather, we look at shows from the early 1980s, late 1970s, filmed Broadway productions that aired on Showtime and HBO when they had nothing else to air. We're going to leave you with a bit of Sammy Kerr and then a bit of OHHMS. We'll catch you next time on Father Malone's Weekly Roundup. That'll be next Monday.
Was that message yesterday meant for me?
All part of the plan.
All right. Okay, now we're talking. Okay, there's a plan. Now, what is the plan?
Nail them all, remember? Revenge. Remember?
Yes! I remember! After yesterday, how could I forget?
Quiet. Metal machines, 6-6 crush. Metal machines, 6-6 crush. 6-6 crush. From the ghetto, slave on man. A new age is rising. Once again. 'Cause we are the bridge from this world onto the next. Hell, arrest us.
Hello, this is Chris Haskell from They Live by Film. For those that don't know us, Adam, Zach, and we built a podcast over the last 2 years that's a combination of film discussion from 3 very different perspectives, as well as industry interviews with the leaders in boutique Blu-ray and 4K community. We started with Dev Crocodile, but over time we've been lucky enough to speak with Arrow Video, Severin, Mondo Macabro, Vinegar Syndrome, Radiance, Indicator, most of the OCN partner labels. It's been a blast. You can find us wherever you podcast, and also actually recently as part of Someone's Favorite Production Podcast Network. We hope to see you online.